this is Britt Caswell with another example video. In this video, I'm covering example 2 from section 2-2 in the SavvasRealize Algebra 2 textbook. Oh, that's a lot of 2's. So in this example video, we are covering the graphing of a quadratic function in standard form. And so this is asking us to use some of the key features that we might know. Alright, so when I graph in standard form, one of the quickest things to start with is actually the Y-intercept. Our Y-intercept is just the C value. So that's at 0, 8. So right there, just looking at our equation, we get our immediate first point. The next thing that I tend to look for is the axis of symmetry, which I'm going to write as AOS. So remember, to find the axis of symmetry, you're going to use the formula x equals negative b over 2a. Alright, that also finds the x value of the vertex, right? So let's identify our a, b, and c. Okay, I see a is 1 in front of x squared. B is negative 4. And c we already discussed a little bit, that's 8. So to find my axis of symmetry, I get negative b, so negative 4 over 2 times a, which is 1. I simplify this double negative and get a positive 4. And then 2 times 1 is 2. So this axis of symmetry is at x equals 2. So I'm going to go ahead, put a nice little dotted line right there. And usually I try to label on the graph whatever line or whatever point I put. Now while we're at it, we know that that axis of symmetry is equidistant from this point and its mirrored point. So since I know that the axis of symmetry is 2 blocks away from this point, I can go 2 blocks to the right to 4, 8, and that gives me another point on my parabola for me to reference. Next up, I'm going to be looking for the vertex. Alright, I already know the x value of my vertex, that's 2. So to find the y value, I'm going to take that 2 and plug it into the function. Alright, so 2 squared is 4, minus 8 plus 8. So our y value here is at 4. So I can go up 4 on this axis of symmetry and get my vertex at 2, 4. Alrighty. Now I usually want 5 points when I go to graph a parabola. So if you notice, I'm missing another 2 points. Another way to get an easy couple of points is using this a value. So recall that the a value tells us how much the parabola moves up or down when I go 1 unit to the side of the vertex. So here, because our a value is 1 and it's positive, when I go 1 unit sideways, I can also go up 1 unit. Okay, so this is at 1, 5, or I can go to the right this way and go up 1 unit to 3, 5. And now I have my 5 points, and I could draw that nice parabola in there. Now, depending on whatever program you're using, a lot of times they use the key feature of the zeros, which by section 2.2 you haven't learned how to find the zeros yet, unless you remember factoring from Algebra 1. So don't freak out yet if we don't have the x-intercepts. This one doesn't have one. Those are going to come later on when we go to graph later. Let's try another one. Alright, so first let's find A, B, and C. Our A is 1, B is -6, and C is -1. So I can use that y-intercept of -1 to get my first point right away. Alright. Next up, I'm going to find our axis of symmetry. Okay, so that's at x equals -b over 2a. So x equals -6 over 2 times 1. -6 is a +6, and 2 times 1 is 2, leaving me with the axis of symmetry at x equals 3. So I can draw my vertical line right here, somewhat straight, at x equals 3. Now remember that y-intercept is equidistant from, this axis of symmetry is equidistant from each side of the parabola. So if I go 3 to the left to get my intercept, I can go 3 to the right to mirror it. Okay, so that's at 6, -1. So then we need our vertex. Alright, our vertex lies on this axis of symmetry somewhere. My A is positive, so I know my vertex has to be below these points because it has to open upwards. So I'm going to take that 3 and plug it into our function to find our vertex. So I have 3 squared minus 6 times 3 minus 1. So 3 squared is 9. 6 times 3 is 18. So this gives me a -10 for my y value. So my vertex is at 3, -10. Which happens to be right here where I decided to write something. That's some poor planning on my part, but it'll be alright. Alright, and then I want 2 more anchor points. So I'm just going to use my A value to get those. That A value is 1. So when I go to the side by 1, I can go up by 1. So this one's at 2, -9, and this one's at 4, -9. And now I have my 5 anchor points to draw my graph. Now notice this one does have x-intercepts, right? Because it starts below the x-axis, and so it starts below the x-axis and it opens upwards. So my x-intercepts I can kind of estimate if I knew how to draw a graph properly. Right? This one's probably between 6 and 7 somewhere, and this one's probably between 0 and -1. You'll learn soon how to find those. But that's how we use some key features to graph in standard form. Until next time.